if you'd like to state your name. Do
you want John B. Thayer, or would you like Jack?
Whichever you go by.
I go by Jack.
Perfect. All right.
And as I explained to everybody, that's because I'm the fifth descendant of John B. Thayer, the same name, and we skipped generations. I never heard anybody call my father Jack, ever.
Yeah.
And after I introduced myself to somebody, hi, I'm John Thayer, call me Jack. Nobody ever calls me John.
Okay. And what?
Caroline Thayer.
Yeah. So what you study?
I grew up in Pennsylvania, and rural Pennsylvania. I grew up on a farm. My grandmother, the original house I remember was at the end of my grandmother's driveway, the lane down to her farm. She had a 150-plus acre farm in rural Pennsylvania. I had one guy my age, almost exactly, but he lived 2 farms over. And when I was 10, 12 years old, I would walk over between farms just to spend the day with him.
Exactly.
And that's it. The rest of the time, I'm on my own. I didn't have any sibling or any kids my age that I teamed with or anything. And then we moved. My father moved us to our own farm about 10 miles farther out in the country in the 60s, I would say. And that's where I remember he bought tractors, and we grew hay and plowed fields. And I started one thing he never ever did. He never fished. He never hunted. And I taught myself with my uncle to fish. And then I bought my first gun, or got my first gun. I don't know, I was probably 15, 14 years old. I got a .22 rifle, and I started shooting things on the farm, shooting groundhogs and snapping turtles in the pond.
Yep.
Things like that.
Exploits.
And I learned early on to drive, because I learned to drive a tractor because it was my father's expectation that I'd bale of hay and load the hay bales on the wagon. And so I learned early on to drive tractors and pickup trucks. It was all tractors. I don't do John Deere's.
Yep.
Although it was on my own. I mean, my father, I don't recall any of his desires or activities play-wise. He was not a tennis player. He wasn't a baseball player or a badminton player or a cricket player either.
Right.
Ironically enough.
It's all farm work.
He's all farm work, or he read or watched television. And my mother was not athletic that I know, although she was a beach person. Some of the family went to her side, went to the Jersey Shore or Delaware Shore in the summer times, and spent a fair amount of time on the beach. And but they just did not spend a lot of time with my parents. So my one uncle that I used to visit with up in Maine taught me to fish, so I fished and I hunted, and that's it. And my mother actually, I had a younger brother who's about 12 years younger than me. My mother at that time took him skiing, which I had never done. And that was something new and different.
Exactly.
And in fact, that one picture that Caroline showed you that our daughter did,
yeah,
that was from a photograph taken on a ski lift, which it was not a ski lift, actually. It was snowboarding.
Okay.
And that was 1992. I was one of the first snowboarders, and especially I was just 50 years old in 1996. And so I was probably the oldest snowboarder at the time. And I started one of the first snowboard teams in the high school. At the school we're currently in Utah.
Oh,
And everybody was scratching their heads. And I had a lot to learn. I visited several different ski areas, Alta and some of the others. And asked them, what do I do to start a snowboard slope and a snowboard team?
yeah.
Ever since then, I've always said, if you take up snowboarding when you're 50 years old, make sure at the end of the first day, you have a hot tub, a masseuse, some pot, and some alcohol. It was not an area at the time in Utah. There was, I think, maybe one area, and I can't remember which one it was. It would let you snowboard.
Robert Redford's place.
You
I guess tell us a little bit more about Robert. What did he do there? That we like he just before he was starter, he was in the military. That's from what I got it. So did he help military? And I want
he
you
was a pilot, and actually flew some seaplanes,
race.
some big old ones.
Okay, so like were they carriers or were they or was he more but
He was behind the scenes. He wasn't in combat.
oh okay. It was during World War II.
Roughly.
Yeah, like right about when the war.
Right.
Okay. And then it's so such a weird book too.
She grew up on a farm and in a very equestrian family.
Yeah.
She likes her horses. She did, by the time she had us and we were kids, she didn't ride anymore, but she raised my sisters and love horses. And she got involved with the local pony club and various organizations and horseback riding and horses and stuff like that.
Oh, like really cool.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
And my father was the same way. It's interesting. I mean, they were a tight couple, I think, from all I could tell. They were always doing the parties together and throwing things together and having guests and stuff like that. But they didn't seem to have any similar interests of any kind. But my mother was a rider. My father, when I was young, I can't remember when he gave me the first piece of advice was never get on a horse. One end bites, the other end kicks, and don't get near them. They both came from substantial backgrounds. My father, obviously, the Pennsylvania Railroad and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But over the years, he did sell real estate, or he was a realtor for a while.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he made any money doing it or whatever, but it gave him time to be with people and socialize. But that's all I remember him doing business-wise was being a realtor.
I would add that your dad, as a person, was a pretty quiet man, whereas his mother was more outgoing,
She was really
very outgoing. And so they were a good pair, but I think that's why he might not have said very much. I mean, he was just a very quiet man.
Well, did they ever talk about Becky?
No, ironically, I've always talked about this a little bit before, but I knew nothing about it until probably I would guess, I usually say I didn't know anything about it until I was 20 years old, but I'd say I probably knew a little bit about it when I was 15 or 16, about the Titanic, but not anything about its family connection.
Yeah.
It was never, ever mentioned, not a topic of conversation ever that I heard. It may have been between my parents and my grandmother, Thayer.
Yeah.
But not when I was in the river around, never knew anything about it. Technically, they were a high-flung, very wealthy family in the Philadelphia society.
Yeah.
And you would expect a lot of jabbering and everything of actual connections,
Exactly.
all that kind of stuff. And that is unusual. And in fact, on the other side, my mother did occasionally talk about my grandfather on her side, and his involvement in the horse world, fox hunting and that kind of thing.
I mean, did they also ever talk about famous theaters in the family as well, too?
A little bit. I think they did talk about
Occasionally, we were reminded that Mary Cassatt was in the family,
it. Oh, yeah.
but that was it. And I was somewhat surprised because where I went to school through, first grade or second grade through the ninth grade, is a Haverford School in Haverford, Pennsylvania, on the main line. That was the school that my grandfather had attended. My father had gone to school there. It was a family name in the school. Nobody ever said, "Oh, hey, that's right, your grandfather was on the Titanic." Nobody ever said anything in boarding school.
He went to boarding school in ninth grade, and then he went off in the service. So he wasn't home after that.
It's funny, it more of the story.
I was just really surprised that everybody has been so silent about it.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed. And that got me to learn even more about my family and the background.
Yeah.
The financial background, the business background. And I learned more about Mary Cassatt and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I had to teach myself about cricket and about the popularity and on the main line of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. My grandfather was so involved in it. I had to learn about it myself. It's kind of like, really? The family's involved in this?
Did you know about your grandfather's book that you wrote?
Nope.
Yes.
Nope. Nothing. I have read it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about it until my father passed away and we inherited the books. And I know I read something, 6 months ago, I read something about next to the Bible, some of his thinking of the Titanic was his most read book.
Well, speaking of the article, I mean, it's signed by your grandfather. Was it ever hung up or anything like that in the house?
Not that I know. Not that I know of.
Yeah. And it was just like in another drawer.
Yeah, I found it in a drawer.
It was in a drawer.
In the guest room in Ashley's room. It was a drawer that had all the memorabilia stuff.
I've read a lot about the Titanic and I've studied it somewhat.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the connection later on in my youth, and so it didn't take.
I guess
The world knows more about the Titanic than I do. After my mother passed away, there were some things that I received as far as hand-me-downs and stuff like that.
And then, of course, we had two watches from Jack. We had Jack's watch that he'd given to Black Exotic when he first started paying. When was like the first time you really saw that? Was it when he inherited it?
Basically,
Yeah.
I think I might have seen it once or twice when I was growing up.
Yeah.
When my father was going through his drawers or something like that. When you was that the dad died.
It was the year when you got shot. So remember we came back from Orm in
87.
87.
Mhm.
You
No.
told me a story that when your parents went out, he would play with that watch with you before they went. He would let you
Mm-hmm.
do something with the watch,
Mm-hmm.
and it was sort of a treat for you. So he did use
Yeah, he
the
would
watch.
show it to me.
He did use it. It was
He did use it as a watch.
the one that made us sound. The one that, what did it do?
It made sound. Okay.
Which one would it be?
Good question. Good question.
I don't believe that any of these guns make sound.
What would it do then? It did something that,
Well, no, there is talk about one that didn't. So it started that when Jack was found by the police, it says that his watch was taken. They don't know if the police officer took it, but they specifically said that it was a gold repeater. And then about 2 days later, it showed up at within the farm actually. And it was on one of the cars, and it's just on the sideboard. I don't know where that one is. I haven't found that one.
you mean that would be a fourth watch?
That would be a fourth watch.
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
Yes.
Good luck.
I know. Yeah. But then there was one watch that I did find in New Fidelity. and the movement is dated till 1910. And that one has some in glass that's probably been replaced a few times, maybe at this point. Because the ones that were original glass, Frederick. But that one has your father's name, but we believe that that was the one that was in its wedding decade, I believe. Father. And I think it seems like it probably was the watch of. I mean,
Wouldn't be surprised.
Exactly. Is it possible that like your grandfather, since he was so into watches, would potentially give your father something that was with him during that whole entire
Probably a pretty good chance of that.
Yeah. I know there was probably a lot of trauma with it and stuff like that, but I mean, did you ever see your dad watch?
Not that I know of.
With one of those that was kept locked away again. And I mean, since it was engraved with his last name or his name on it, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell.
And if he did wear it, he would probably wear it to a wedding or a funeral or whatever, but not around the farm and day to day.
Yeah.
Again, I was really close to my aunts on my father's side. I spent summers with them in Maine at the house in Bar Harbor. But nobody ever talked about it once again.
They did. I looked up something recently, though, when I was reading just about the Johns and Jacks, and read about his depression. And his children, his daughters, said that he suffered from depression quite a bit.
Yes, I did read that as well too. I read what about the time,
but I never knew anything about it at that time.
And then you had the 21st birthday, and I know the story of how Marion gave the captain of Carpathia a watch with 3 other widows. They gifted Captain of Carpathia a Tiffany & Co. signed watch from all of them thanking him for saving the
Well, that's beautiful.
And it seems like your family has a really deep root in watches. It seems like they actually like to give watches out on very special occasions. Because it seemed like he always had a watch kind of thing. He always was interested in time, even in the actual sequence.
Yeah.
Was specific on time schemes.
Very.
11:45.
11:44, exactly.
In the 2:00, 2:22.
Yes, exactly. And that's when the watch stuff.
And he seemed very sad that he hadn't seen his father one more time.
Exactly.
In the story, he said, if I'd known I wasn't going to see Dad again, or my father,
yeah,